fun to a women's conference they attended years before due to the fact that I am a misleading liar, and because she thought she was being taught by a God-fearing woman. And since only a sinner contemplates divorce, I rebuke everything you've taught me. As if the pain of the decision to end our marriage isn't already hard enough. As if breaking this news to our children wasn't one of the most gut-wrenching moments of our lives. As if fighting to still be a family and still remain friends even in the midst of it all isn't nearly impossible to carry. As if the years I've spent teaching negates the fact that I am and have only ever been a human being navigating my way through to the best of my ability. Here's what I say to that. And my response isn't truly for the people who think I should carry some guilt for getting divorced. No, my response is for anyone who finds themselves trying to shake loose the shame others ask them to carry, and they need a go-to response. Try this one. I will not hold space for your expectations, your recriminations, or your judgment. I have fought with every ounce of my energy, every piece of my intelligence, and every bit of my faith to make my marriage great. For years. We tried individual therapy and conferences together and books and prayer. We tried sex and church and podcasts and hours of communication. I tried fixing it. I tried carrying it. I tried covering up how fucking hard and utterly exhausting it was to do all the carrying. I tried allowing our friendship and our laughter and our joy in our children to cover up the parts of us that were deeply unhealthy. And then one day, I just couldn't anymore. I made the choice I never thought I'd make. I made the choice to hurt my children. I made the choice to disappoint our family and our community, and I don't feel 1 ounce of guilt about it. I feel deep, searing pain, and loss, and hurt, and anger, but no guilt. Guilt implies that I've done something wrong, but I know I've made the only decision possible for us to come out the other side of this whole and healthier. I made the choice. I did something that hurt my children because I would rather they experience pain now than grow up believing that our unhealthy relationship was something to emulate. I disappointed our family and our community because I don't believe that other people, no matter how much they care about me, will ever truly know what goes on in my life, and therefore, they don't get any say in how I live it. I am willing to be the villain in someone else's story if it means I can be the hero of my own. I can't tell you where that proclamation leads me. I'm still deeply in the heart of this, but I do have a clarity I didn't know was possible. I cannot hurt myself to spare other people discomfort, and I refuse to feel guilty for being unwilling to do so. Not anymore. Things that helped me. Pretend you're counseling someone else. If you're struggling under the weight of guilt and having a hard time letting it go, then let's play pretend. Let's pretend that the thing you feel so guilty about was actually done by someone else. I want you to imagine that a friend of yours has come to you to share that they did exactly what you did. They're sick with shame and struggling to move past it. What would you tell them? What would you say to someone who finds themselves where you find yourself? Chances are you'd be way more gracious and likely much more constructive when giving them advice than you are with yourself. Remember that you can have bad thoughts and still be a good person. I would just like to take this moment to remind you that you're having petty, small-minded, rude, impractical, greedy, selfish thoughts doesn't make you a bad person. I've thought about Star Trek before, but doesn't make me a Klingon. I grew up in a faith that talked about what we should think on, and I've always loved the scripture. Whatever is true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, etc., think on these things. I love this reminder to us all to focus on the kinds of thoughts we want to have, but I don't think that means we must be ashamed of the very real human thoughts that are in there too. Emphasis on human, guys. Remember that you can do something bad and still be a good person. Growing up, my extended family had this rule about gossip, or more specifically, how old you had to be in order to be allowed to gossip. You see, my aunts and grandma loved to sit around in grandma's kitchen and gossip. But the rule was you weren't allowed in grandma's kitchen to gossip until you got your period. The ladies in my family considered that to be the ultimate test of maturity, and it was a huge deal for me when I was finally allowed in. I remember on one of my first visits after that rite of passage, sitting around and listening to all the women talk. Specifically, one aunt was telling the rest about a friend whose husband had left her for another woman. Another aunt piped up matter-of-factly, "Well, that's what she gets for falling in love with a scoundrel. A leopard doesn't change its spots." That was the first time I ever heard the expression about a leopard, but it certainly wouldn't be the last. And many people, like my aunts, believe that expression to be true. I mean, it is a true statement when it comes to a leopard, and the genetic makeup that means it was made in a certain way. But it is entirely false to state that a human being, having made a bad decision, is now locked into that decision unchanging for the rest of time. You are not a leopard. You are an ever-evolving being